Chill or Be Chilled by TotalSkeletonTrash. Chapter 2, in which you make a really bad pun at a receptionist. When it becomes clear that you've managed to name the wrong skeleton, you consider retreating back behind your hands. But in spite of the dog's mirth, the short skeleton sitting next to you looks, if anything, pleased. Nah, close though. Papyrus is my brother. He really is awesome, though. He'll be so happy to hear that he's got a reputation for being cool, even with strange humans. It'll warm him to the bone, he says with a grin. You narrow your eyes at the pun, thinking that surely a skeleton could do better than that. Anyway, I'm actually named Sans, and this is Lesser Dog. LD is a little easier, though. Oh, you sit up. Right, of course. Obviously they mentioned you too. Alphys and Undyne had talked about another skeleton, a real joker who was very protective of Papyrus. Apparently, you gather, that protectiveness extends to other monsters. He'd braved a human establishment to make sure that his dog friend was okay. Well, I'm really pleased to meet you both. Ghost chose that moment to hiss angrily, causing you to say, That's not anti-monster sentiment from the kitty, promise. Ghosty just hates the vet. Lesser Dog gives you an anxious look, causing you to quickly explain. Oh no, sweetie, don't worry. The vet's a really nice guy. You don't need to be worried. Ghost just isn't as smart as you, so he doesn't understand that the vet isn't trying to hurt him when he's giving him medicine. Lesser Dog seems reassured at this, but Sans nudges your shoulder again as soon as the dog is distracted by something out the window. The vet guy, he's going to be cool? He says, low and casual. You see what he's getting at almost instantly. Monsters hadn't necessarily gotten the warmest reception in this town, or, hey, in any other town. They were brand new, many of them seemed terribly different from the people who had always lived here, and they all seemed to have access to a suspicious amount of gold. Wars had been fought between different groups of humans for those very reasons for millennia. The behavior of many of your fellow humans towards the monsters had been as predictable as it was deplorable. I think so. You start, then bite your lip. Sans is watching you closely. You don't notice the pinpricks of light in his eyes dart to your mouth for a second before meeting your eyes again. You're too busy thinking about how awful it would be if your hunch about the veterinarian was wrong. But I could go in with you guys, if that's okay, you say, looking over Sans' shoulder at the excited dog. Ghost only needs a few shots anyway, and humans tend to behave better if they know that they're being watched. You attempt. Sans looks distant as he mutters, Not quite sure that's true. He scratches the dog's back distractedly for a moment, ignoring the rapturous expression on Lesser Dog's face. Hey, thanks, pal, but I think we'll be okay on our own. He finally decides. Wouldn't want to be a burden on you and Ghost. He gives you a wide, false smile. You groan. That was terrible, and you wouldn't be a burden, really. I think it was the cat's pajamas. Sans interrupts pointedly. You realize he's trying not to let on that he's worried, for the sake of the dog. You should have vetted that joke better. You sigh, the corners of your mouth turning up. Sans beams at you. Nice one. It's better if you pause for effect, though. That's where I draw the feline. You drawl. Sans snickers and then glances up quickly when the receptionist appears in the doorway to squeak out, Sans and Lesser Dog, room 2? Sans stretches and then smiles encouragingly at Lesser Dog. Come on, bud. Kid, nice to have met you. Maybe I'll see you around sometime? You look up at him, seeing the kind and reassuring way he's looking at his enthusiastic canine companion. And for a second, you don't care that Ghost managed to claw your leg through one of the holes in the door of his cage. Seeing someone so dedicated to keeping his friend safe, in spite of the uncertainty of what kind of reception he might get, it fills you with determination. I'd love that, Sans. you find yourself saying, your voice stronger and more sincere than you'd heard it in, well, a while. He pauses in mid-step and glances back at you. The tiniest blue flush creeps across his cheeks. Well, throw a guy a bone here, Reeds. Give me your number. You feel your own cheeks begin to warm yet again. You aren't even a blusher, and you open your mouth to respond when the receptionist pipes up. Sir? It's just that the vet, he's waiting for you, and he's really tight on time, so... Go in, you urge. You don't want to jeopardize Lesser Dog's treatment if the vet is irrationally angry at the monsters for wasting his time. I'll get your number from Undyne and text you, promise. Sans nods, nudging Lesser Dog in the right direction. When the door closes to the exam room, the receptionist clears her throat. I think that skeleton was hitting on you, Reeds, she says with clear disgust in her voice. You feel a shock of anger travel through you, but then you smile at her, sickly sweet. I'm pretty sure I was the one thinking about jumping his bones, Cadence. You purr, less concerned about the truth of that statement than making sure that she knows you and her are not on the same team. Then you notice that you've made a pun. Oh great, it's rubbing off. Still, it's worth it to see the receptionist turn chalk white once more. She beats a hasty retreat, and you stare down at Ghost. I hope they're okay in there, you tell the cat. Ghost meows mournfully back at you. You're called into exam room 4 before Sans and Lesser Dog reappear. You try to take that as a good sign. Surely, if things were going down badly, you'd have seen them burst out. Or at least heard some barking, you think anxiously, picking up Ghost Carrier and hauling him onto the exam table. Now that you're in the exam room, Ghost has no interest in leaving the carrier. He knows what's coming next. He cowers in the back, eyes enormous. You jerk upright when the vet finally comes in. He's a distinguished older man with dark skin and a meticulous gray mustache. Dr. Stanley, hi, you say, trying not to sound too strained. He smiles calmly at you. Reeds, just the annual shots today, right? No more midnight feasts for Ghost? You chuckle guiltily. Right, I found a better place to keep his food so he can't keep helping himself. You say, then blurt out. Hey, so you just saw my, friends, Sans and LD? And I just wanted to make sure they're okay? You stop, seeing the stern expression on Dr. Stanley's face. You've heard of doctor-patient confidentiality, surely, he says, fishing your cat effortlessly out of the carrier. You're too distracted by the conversation to be bitter that Ghost is so much more compliant for the veterinarian. Oh, does that apply to vets? You say, caught off guard. I mean, I've told people if one of the penguins or puffins at work is sick before. Are you implying that a monster is the same as a non-sentient bird? The vet says pointedly. Ghost is limp in his hold, accepting his fate now. You gape at him for a second. God, no! Lesser Dog just ate that lizard, and I don't know if magic animals can even get poisoned or anything, and I don't know how to help them if you weren't able to. Shh, Dr. Stanley advises, smiling just a little again. I assure you, those two weren't the first monsters I've met. I've actually been in touch with a monster who specializes in biology, to make sure that I'm able to treat any new patients competently. He administers the first shot. Ghost is out of complaints by this point, and is reduced to staring pathetically at you. You scratch the cat's head, feeling relieved. Oh, well, I'm very glad to hear that, you say. There's a pause, and the vet adds innocently, You'll probably be glad to hear that there's no poisonous lizards within 200 miles of Mount Ebbet. Any dog, magical or otherwise, that managed to eat one would be fine. Maybe a little indigestion. Well, that's 2 for 2 as far as good news goes. You're about to beam at the vet when he looks sternly up at you. Now, let's talk about this tartar buildup. Have you been brushing Ghost's teeth? You're about to protest how impossible that would be when you see your cat, mute, obedient, and pliant in the vet's hold. You mentally sigh and submit yourself to the ensuing lecture on the importance of feline dental hygiene. So you want to jump my bones, huh? The text is unexpected, lighting up your phone just as you're about to fall asleep that night. Ghost peeks one yellow eye open from his spot on the pillow next to yours and glares at you, as if it's your fault the phone's just vibrated. You cuddle him for a second as punishment for his bad attitude, then scoop the phone up. You open the text from an unknown number, read it, and feel your stomach plummet with embarrassment. Oh God. You could just ignore this, you suppose. Maybe you could play it off as if he had the wrong number. You consider it, then imagine Sans sitting there, deciding to text you. God, you assumed it was Sans. You've got awfully good hearing for a guy with no ears. You type out the deflection and hover over the send button for a long time, before finally squeezing your eyes shut and pressing it. There, great job, Reeds. Playing it real cool. Minutes creep by. You consider trying to go to sleep again. When the phone buzzes, almost 15 minutes later, you snatch it up anxiously. I don't. The dog does. Sans' explanation is somehow even more embarrassing. You can just imagine the innocent dog passing that tidbit on to Sans, unaware of the implication. Sure, the dog couldn't talk, but you didn't think for a second that this was a barrier between monsters. Or worse, what if he'd said it to more people than Sans? God, what if he'd communicated it in front of Undine? She'd torment you at work. You groan for a second, then think hard. If Undine knew you'd said that, she wouldn't torment you at work. She'd already be tormenting you. You're probably safe. Feeling slightly relieved, you typed quickly. Well, I had to say something to make it clear how ducking rude the receptionist was being. You notice the autocorrect error only after you press send and groan, knowing what's coming. Glad you did. Me and the dog were quacking up. Good night, Sans. You put your phone down after setting the alarm. You're almost asleep again when you remember that you never had given Sans your number after all. He must have asked Alphys or Undine for it. If you'd embarrassed yourself, the skeleton must have done the same just for the chance to text you. The thought makes you smile as you finally drift off. Also do commissions, details of which are on my Patreon. So keep in touch. Bye!